Okay, it's morning, Monday morning, Prescott Park in New Hampshire, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and the setup is occurring. All kinds of stuff here. Beautiful park, right on the coast in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. That is the ocean-ish, close to the ocean. We're going to be here for the climate policy release with Andrew Yang. Today we're going to learn some stuff, hopefully some new stuff. Hopefully he has a new spin on some of the discussions around climate policy. It's one of the things that any presidential candidate will have to sort of address in to round out their policy. You know, he's pretty much an economic-based candidate. He's going to talk a lot about the economy of the future and technology, but climate is obviously a huge part and a huge factor of some of our economic challenges for the next decades and centuries. So it's a beautiful day. I think it's 58 degrees out. There is virtually no wind. It is my kind of weather. I even have a cardigan today. Haven't had to put it on yet because of just the warm sun. You know, it's pretty amazing for August that we're here. So it is perfect fall weather. It's like the ideal October day here in New England. I know it's nice in Philly as well, but this is absolute paradise for me personally. So if nothing interesting comes out of this, I will at least have one day, 24 hours in really good weather. So it's beautiful. We've got guys that are re-roofing an old Cape Cod style large house here on the docks. So I'll be back. I'll have some more video from the events today. We're gonna follow Yang through a few events and see if he's got a basic stump speech, and if there are some interesting nuggets. We're gonna try to dive into explore some of those ideas in more detail on player piano. So look forward to that. If you know of an expert, I'm looking for economists to really dive into the viability, the upside, the downside, the trade-offs. I don't think the economy of the future is as simple as looking back at Milton Friedman or Marx and saying it's a one or the other choice. I think we have to come up with really nuanced and creative solutions. So I'm certainly not someone that endorses candidates for president, but I do try to spend as much time as I can learning about how people think, the different ways that people think, and no one is thinking different in more tangible ways than Andrew Yang early in this campaign. So his poll numbers are surging, relatively speaking. He is now ranked 5th among Democrats. So I felt it was really important. I make no secret of this. I felt it was really important to sort of capture his thoughts early enough, just in case his campaign runs out of steam. I'm hopeful. It looks like he's got momentum, but under no circumstances did I want to let this opportunity go by to capture his thoughts about the future while he was still running for president and while it still made sense on the national stage. So, no matter what the next 13 months holds for this nation, we're going to continue to need to come up with new ideas, creative thoughts. Not all of them are going to be viable or perfect, but we have to continue to think about them. I feel strongly in that. So look forward to more video, more audio, on player piano and for the painted lines. Thanks.
But yeah, this about this meeting.
Yes. So my question is,
Be respectful of the conversation and stay back a little bit.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
is that very, very diligent people get together and do an assessment and stuff what the lake needs. But then no one actually has the resources to do the things that the report identifies. At least that's the pattern that you got. Right? Or is it a money issue in New Hampshire, in the city, in the county?
Something on the city councilor hat for a minute. The city of Portsmouth has done an extensive climate vulnerability assessment with help from groups like UCS, and what it means is a lot of the things that you would have done anyway in terms of renewing your infrastructure, you now are redoing them with some additional costs. You're rebuilding the seawall over here, but you're building it higher, and you're moving something back from the shoreline that otherwise would have stayed where it was. So it's definitely brings a lot of expense and the need for long-term planning. And I would say, a city like Portsmouth has a lot of resources with which to undertake those kinds of things, and the luxury of really planning long-term. It's probably harder for a lot of towns that are smaller, that don't have the planning resources and the financial resources to really do that well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Portsmouth is in a more fortunate position than many other places.
It is iterative. I mean, when we adapt to a changing climate, local communities, the state and federal government have to realize that it is iterative. I mean, we're going to do this over time. And the fact that we've got local communities looking at plans, looking at their flood management, looking at their culverts, literally replacing culverts. We have at town meeting now in New Hampshire, voters in coastal towns saying aye to spend a little money on flooding studies and culvert replacement and changing ordinances so we can be more resilient. So it is iterative. We don't have to spend a lot of money immediately, but certainly with respect to coastal real estate, adaptation is going to be an important component to maintaining our economy in the coastal states.
No, couldn't agree more. My plan designates tens of billions of dollars to help communities and individuals relocate as needed along shorelines in particular. To me, the responsibility of the federal government is on several fronts. I mean, we have to try and slow down the rate of climate change. We also have to start getting realistic about the impact to our people and assist communities in adapting, because it's going to be beyond the scope of many communities to be able to meet those expenses, or it's going to crowd out other vital expenses. I can see some communities where you have to rob Peter to pay Paul.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're what the Union of Concerned Scientists is looking for. We're a 501c3 organization. We can't support or endorse.
Yeah, of course. I ran a 501c3 for 7 years.
Okay, so you know what the line. Right?
I actually had to step down and run for president. So if you ever run, I'm kidding.
let me. I do want to give you this. This is what
please.
every voter presidential candidate needs to know.
I love it.
This is a 6 pages on the 4 early primary states. So if you're in Nevada,
So
South
helpful.
Carolina, Iowa, or New Hampshire.
I should have read this right before we came up with this policy. I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm not kidding.
four things, right? A price on carbon,
Yes. Done.
resilient infrastructure,
Yes.
a robust research and development.
Yes.
And what's the fourth?
I was going to say mitigation adaptation.
You read that.
All right, what's number 4?
For all the
Oh, you left me hanging. What's going on?
Here it is right here. Put a price on carbon,
Yep.
pass It's a national clean
Yes.
energy and clean vehicle standard. Fund resiliency projects.
Yes.
Drive innovation.
Yeah. Oh, right. Good. It's like you were in the lab with us, coming up with a plan. You have to check out the plan.
Let the
when it
record
comes
state
out.
that I was not in the lab.
I've certainly been thinking about it for a long time. I was actually the Northeast Climate Policy Coordinator for UCS over
Oh,
a
you guys are so
decade
good.
ago, and we were putting out, we had the climate impacts assessment, and obviously we had the clean energy transition plan, and for all the mitigation, for all the adaptation, and that we have to do. You're absolutely right. It's happening already. We also have to put the pedal to the metal on mitigation and the transition to clean energy. We have the technology,
Yes.
and all we need to do is stop the investing in fossil fuel infrastructure and accelerate the investment in clean solar, wind,
I'm just
water.
figuring out. Maybe it took me a while. Maybe it's going to take America a while too. So the big problem we have is that people look at this stuff and say it's going to cost money, and it's going to cost jobs. Like that's the
Right.
the counter argument, and that could be correct if you kept operating with massive subsidies for fossil fuel, and the fact that we're trying to get energy in the cheapest way possible because we're ignoring externalities. If you include all the externalities, then all of a sudden these forms of energy get way more expensive because you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars of catastrophic, irreversible harm over time that has never been factored into the cost. So in many ways, the challenge is for us to try and include externalities in the true cost of energy. And then if you do that, then renewable sources of energy become much cheaper. The other thing is that we're measuring economic progress along this crude production line, where if you have a natural disaster, it actually increases GDP because you have to spend money rebuilding.
Right.
That doesn't make any
Rebuilding all
sense.
that.
So if you follow GDP around, you're going to be like, hey,
right.
this hurricane was pretty good for us. Like, obviously it makes no sense. So we have to try and evolve in the way we measure things, both by including externalities and by directing our GDP measurement to things like environmental sustainability and quality, and our health and well-being. Because increasingly GDP is going to be at cross purposes with our health and well-being as well as clearly the environment. And the problem in America is that we've gotten brainwashed into thinking that the economy, as we're currently measuring it, is the end-all be-all, and that we're all inputs into it. Or what I've said in another context, we've confused economic value and human value, and it's just confused the heck out of people. And so they think we can't get certain things done. And they might be right if we continue along the current axis. But what you have to do is you have to look up and say, wait a minute, we made up GDP 100 years ago. We made up fossil fuel subsidies decades ago. Like we made up a lot of the stuff that goes in the current system.
Yeah, and 100 years ago, we had the electric light bulb and a grid. And the grid is built on the foundation of the electric light and fossil fuel centralized electricity production.
That's why you need the grid.
Now what we have is a technology that can go on every building in open fields. We're about to unveil the largest rooftop solar system in the state at the new Dover High School. Over 900 kilowatts on the roof of a brand new high school. And I've just gotten involved in the Oyster River School District up here in Durham, which is the hometown of University of New Hampshire, is aiming to build its new middle school as a net zero building.
That's great.
New middle school to be net zero. And so design it in from the beginning to produce as much or more energy as it uses. That's what we need to do.
We need to have standards for that so that any new building ends up being net zero. And it saves you money over time too. I love it. What you guys are working on is very much the direction we need to head. I read the study that 4 to 8% of Atlantic Ocean biomass is disappearing every year. It's like I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh. Cumulatively, that's like an epic disaster of unprecedented levels. And so, it's like, to me, we have to try and reseed the ocean with microalgae and various things to try and rebuild ecosystems. So that I saw like 48% of biomass being lost over time. That's going to end up impacting fishing yields and all of these communities that rely upon it.
As it happens, the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Associations is a business it
Smart.
comes down to a warming ocean producing a certain species of algae, which is ingested by the Dungeness crab. Probably had Dungeness crab in your life.
Delicious.
And it's a $100 million industry in Northern California. So as this algae is ingested, it creates domoic acid in the flesh of the crab. It doesn't hurt the crab, but it is fatal, injurious to humans. And
So it makes the Dungeness crabs inedible for humans.
Right, the market
thus
collapses.
destroying the $100 million.
and we've got here in the Gulf of Maine, we've had a $3 to $5 million Maine shrimp industry. It's gone from 3 to 5 million a year to zero because, as the Department of Environmental Management in Maine says, because of warming oceans.
Yeah, and so that to me is the clearing the coal mine on the tip of the spear. It's like you end up losing these shrimp yields, crab yields, and then it ends up spreading to other marine life over time.
That's the counter to the, what you were saying earlier. It's too expensive to turn the ship to
You know what's more
deal with-
expensive?
It's too expensive not
catastrophe.
to.
Yeah. That has to be the translation. You have to bring in the externalities. Because if you look at it, we're talking about easily trillions of dollars in harm over the years to come. Easily, maybe worse.
And it isn't just people's livelihoods, it's way of life.
Yeah.
It's the fishing lobsters are migrating, north to Nova Scotia, the Maine.
And we see adaptation in the business industry, right? I can't name one transaction where a ski company has bought another ski slope, and it's been a four-season resort company that has bought these ski slopes. We know that all of the ski slopes within the national forest lands have petitioned to allow other recreation outside of the special use permit, and that's successful. I think because of Senator Udall legislation 5 or 6 years ago. The fishing industry is forced to adapt. We've got men and women who used to fish for lobster in Rhode Island and now fishing for different species. Black sea bass has come into the Gulf of Maine because the waters are warm. Jonah crab is a shellfish that Rhode Island fishermen are capitalizing because the lobster population has collapsed. The industry
Well, it's great to have people like you at the frontier. This feels like a frontier in this coast, identifying what needs to happen. The problem is that the macro forces are just so enormous at this point. Obviously, they're planet-wide, and it's going to be such a difficult. Like you said, it's going to be a lagging indicator. Even if you were to reduce emissions, you're still looking at rising temperatures and sea levels for years and years to come. Even if we do everything right starting today, which obviously we're unlikely to do worldwide. I think I saw a study the UN put out that said it'd be okay if 80% of the world became vegetarian which seems unlikely.
When I brought members of the delegation, members of Maine and New Hampshire scientists to meet with their delegations, I learned that the program ARPA-E, which is designed after DARPA for energy, the research program at the Department of Energy, is involved in algae research here in the Gulf of Maine. And so those programs, people think of technology, just technology. Learning that those R&D programs are invested in algae research, that they're invested in how, in applied science, how this science can help industries moving forward. The aquaculture industry, growing shrimp on land, is a commercial business. And the question is that the future of shrimp? Is it all going to be in warehouses? So there's evidence of the need to adapt because of shifting climate, shifting economies.
Shrimp warehouse,
And that's happening. There's a terrific
because it's going to save Dover taxpayers money
You
in the
know,
long
I'd,
run.
I'd like to just create so much work for you. Like one of our goals is to start something that's analogous to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for homeowners to upgrade their homes to renewable energy. So it makes,
And energy efficiency.
yeah, you make the cost of capital low enough,
Yeah.
and then just tell the homeowners like, look, you'll end up paying this thing back over, 24 to 36 months, and then you get to keep the rest.
Sure.
Any rational homeowner will be like, that's not the upgrade.
Of course, built into the